What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So today we're going to go over the Consumer Price Index. Now we have good news and bad news. We're going to talk a little bit about both of those in this video. But first off, if you guys can do me a favor, please like the video. And if you're watching this video and you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, so I'm calling out all the retirees. When it comes to the Consumer Price Index, the reason that we like to go over this is we want to know what inflation's looking like. Because inflation, if you are on a fixed income, inflation is very important. It's very important for all of us, but if you are on a fixed income, it's even more important because you can't just work overtime and make a little bit of extra money, or you might not have a desire to have a side job. And so let's go ahead. I'm going to show you guys the information coming from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And we have overall CPI, overall inflation is 2.4%. That's good news. That's good news because last month, and remember, we're talking about March now because we're 1 month behind as far as the records. So in February, we saw inflation at 2.8%. So it's good that it's dropped to 2.4%. And so we can look at that and say, well, that's good news. Also, when we're looking at month to month, this is the month to month. So in March, month to month was minus 0.1%, which is good because we saw this little pattern happening where it was starting to rise. We saw in January it was 0.5, then it dropped in February to 0.2. Now we're at minus 0.1, which is really good news. Okay, now that we talked about the good news, the bad news, when it comes to food actually rose. And so looking right here, it says the food index, in contrast, rose 0.4% in March as food at home index increased 0.5%. Food away from home index rose 0.4% over the month. And so now I want to show you guys the illustration that I do every month. And I'm going to continue to do this illustration. And I've been trying to figure out what's the best way to deliver this information to you. And I think this is a little bit better. And I'll just talk about it for 1 second. So the gray here, this gray is last month. So this would be February. And remember, this record is for March. So we have gray in February, and then we have green in March. That way you guys can see what happened the previous month, so you can see the difference. And in the past, I was just showing you what March was showing or what February is showing. Now I want to show you the last month and this month. Okay, so looking at this information here, when we're looking at all food items in March, 3% increase. That's year to date. That means that last year, things were 3% less than what they are this year. Okay, that's what that's saying. Now, when we're looking at month over month, 0.4% increase. So we're seeing an increase of 0.4%, right? Now, when it comes to last month, we saw 2.6% year over year, and then we saw 0.2% month over month. Okay, looking at food at home. Food at home, we saw 2.4% year over year, and then 0.5% month over month. And then the numbers for February, just so you guys get an idea of the increase. You see that increase there. Okay, looking at cereal and bakery products, we're looking at 1.1% year over year, and then 0.2% month over month. Now, looking at meats, poultries, fish, and eggs, we're expecting this to be high because egg prices were high for the last few months. They've started to come down now, but they were still high. So in March, we still saw an increase here. So year over year, we saw 7.9%. And then month over month, we saw 1%. And you can see the comparison there. So when it comes to February, we didn't see much of a jump, but it's still high. So in February, it was 7.7%. In March, it was 7.9%, but it's still high. And that's probably mainly because of the situation with eggs. Okay, dairy and related products, 2.2% year over year, 1% month over month. And you see here in February, it was minus 1%. So now we're at 1%. It was minus 1%. And so we're seeing some shifting in that category. Okay, fruits and vegetables. This is good news here. Minus 0.7%. That's year over year. And minus 0.8%, that's month over month. So year over year, so fruits and vegetables are less expensive now than they were a year ago. That's good news. But looking at the indicators here from February, we saw a little bit of the same, not as high, but minus 0.2%. And that's year over year, and then minus 0.5% when it comes to month over month. Okay, let's look at non-alcoholic beverages. We have 2.4% year over year, and then we have 0.6% month over month. And if we go back to February, you see it was minus 0.5% month over month. So we have seen an increase. Now, I'm interested. I'm really watching this because we have the tariffs in place right now when it comes to aluminum. And so some of these products, they use aluminum, cans, sodas, and things like that. And so are we going to see this price increase even higher month over month? And so are we going to see the price of these items continue to increase? And right now it looks like they are. 2.4% year over year, and then 0.6% month over month. And you see the change here between the two. So is that going to continue to rise? And it probably will with the tariffs in place when it comes to aluminum. Okay, other food at home. So other food at home, 1.1% year over year, and then 0.8% month over month. And we also see an increase here. So back in February, it was minus 0.5%. Now we're looking at 0.8%. So there's a shift there. And this we're looking at other food at home, canned products and things like that are part of that, soups and all the stuff you buy in a can. And this could be having an effect because of the cans that they're using are more expensive now. Okay, and now let's take a look at food away from home. Food away from home, 3.8% year over year, and then 0.4% month over month. So there's no real change there from February to March, and really no change from year over year. And then I have one more graph that I want to show you here, and this is showing core inflation and all inflation. So all inflation is about 2.4%, and then core inflation is at about 3%. I believe it's 2.8. Yeah, 2.8%. So that's what we're looking at when it comes to food and inflation. Now, another good thing, and I didn't mention this from the beginning, and I should have, the cost of living adjustment for people receiving Social Security benefits was 2.5%. Now we're looking at all inflation at 2.4%. So it's less than the cost of living adjustment, which is good. That's what we want to see. Now, the expectation is it's going to rise again. It's going to go over 2.4% in our next, when we get the information for April. And that's probably going to be due to the tariffs. Okay, so now understand this. Just because there's a 90-day pause on some tariffs, it's not all the tariffs. There's a 10% across the board for pretty much all countries. And so that tariff is in place. So we could see 10% more, increase in things that we buy. So just be aware of that. And then certain countries like China, they had the 104%, or now it's 125%. And so all of that we pay for. Understand that. Okay, so if you have a supplier in the U.S. that wants to buy products from China, they're going to pay that tariff of 125%. That is the way that it works. So understand that. So when that product comes in, that supplier in the U.S. has to pay that 125%. And then that product goes to whoever's selling the product, retailers or what have you, and they have to pay that as well because they're gonna pass that cost on to the retailer, and then the retailer has a decision: are they going to eat that 125%? Highly unlikely. And so what they're going to do is they're going to pass a portion or all to the consumer. Okay, and it will probably be a portion. They'll probably say, okay, let's kind of ease into this. So let's say maybe 50%. Well, even 50% is a lot. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how some of these companies are going to do it. They might end up just going under, because can you really raise 50? Even if you raise it 50%, that's so much, and people just won't buy. Tennis shoes are something that is being talked a lot about. They're saying that the price of tennis shoes are going to skyrocket. Running shoes and things like that, a lot of those shoes are made in China. And so if that's the case, and even if let's say you have the shoe manufacturers, they decide, okay, we're going to start making shoes in the U.S., they've still indicated that shoes are going to cost like $200 or $300. And so a shoe that used to cost between $80 and $100 is now going to cost $200 or $300. Nobody's going to buy those shoes. They're just going to keep wearing the shoes that they have. And so buckle up. This is going to be, we're looking at a situation. This is probably going to be the best report that I read today. It's probably going to be the best report that we see all year, because after this, we're going to see some drastic increases. So I want to know what you guys think about all that. So let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.